This is a Canva Premium website, and this is my recreation of the first 3 pages presented in it, all done in vanilla CSS, all done by scratch, all done for free. In this video, I'm going to go around how to take an existing website and recreating it, and my thought process on how to do that, and how you could then inherit this thought process to break it down and do it yourself. So when looking at the first page, the first thing I see is that we basically have one div right here. All these are just basically margins, and this is basically divided into 2 sections, each taking up around 50% of the screen. And I feel like I can easily recreate that in markup. So let's go look at that first. So first I would contain one section and give it a class of hero, but basically I would divide it into one div and one image. This one containing my text, the other one containing this image. So let's look at the CSS. If we look at our CSS, our hero class, we have a margin of 10 vertical heights, display of flex, and a background of black. Inside of that, we have our first div, which represents our first half, and we give it a width of 50%, obviously. Then we give it a display flex, flex direction column, and a justify the content to the center. This is used in order to center our text vertically, which is very important for our design because we want this to also kind of center around our image. And like always, we want to give this padding of 2 rem because we always need our text to have some space. We obviously need to go into a little bit more detail of our headers. In this case, I give it a color of white, font family of sans serif, which just makes it look less ugly. We have a font size of 4 rem, and if normal font size is just 1 rem, this is really big to emphasize the title. We give no margins to the bottom, and we have these animations. Same thing for our header too. We have our color white with the font family, and this time we're going to give a font size of 2 rem and give it a margin at the top, and give the top margin 1.5 rem to create this pretty even space between the two, which is just comfy for the eyes. That leaves us with our image, which will take up the rest of the space with width of 50%. You may have noticed that I have set up some animations, so I will go over those. So we define them by just saying we start with translating X to 100%, which means it'll translate by 100% of the image's width. That means if it's on the right half of it and it translates itself by its width, it'll be off the screen, but it'll end by not translating it at all, which is its original position. That way, I get this nice smooth animation where the image slides in. We also have our animations that go from 0 opacity to 1 opacity, which will make the text fade in. Our header one will make the duration 2 seconds, but more importantly, header 2 will have a delay of 0.5 seconds to match the original design more, but in order to fix this, we need to give this an original opacity of 0, and also get the animation fill mode to go forwards, which means it won't reset to the original position after animation. If I were to get rid of this, this is what would happen. And that's not good at all. Next up, we have our second page, which can also be easily divided into one section with the other parts simply being margins. And again, just divide this into another section. Everything pretty normal. Our markup is very simple. We just have one image inside of our section, and then we have another div with just an H1 and an H2 defining the text of the content, which matches our layout with one image, text, and then other text. For the CSS, we give the whole section a width of 90 VWs, and we want to get a min height of 90 VH, which will make it take up almost all of the screen. We also want to give it a background black, and then we also have this very interesting opacity of 0, and then transforming it from the X -5. This is because in our animation we fade in and slide our thing to the right, so we need to make it so initially it's totally faded out and slid to the left. As you can see, the animation will make it so opacity will turn to 1, and the transform will make it so nothing is happening there, and it's in its default position. Our image is going to be very simple. We're just going to give it a width of 100%. Now I could try and make it so it has a height of 50 VH, but this doesn't always work because sometimes the aspect ratio won't match. So in this case, I'm going to be lazy and just give it a 100% width, base it off of that instead. Now for a section of text, all we're going to do is make it so it's display flex, so we can position our two texts adjacently. And we're going to align item center to align them vertically like this. Set the color to white. And then we're going to add padding of 2 rem and box sizing to border box, which you should always add in general, along with our fun font family of not Times New Roman. And the rest is simply adding corresponding font sizes and font weight to your H1 and your H2, each of them taking up 50% of the width like the original design. And that's really all it took for the second section. Because the original Canva website consisted of multiple pages, each one with their own animation, that means in order to have an animation on each of them, you would need an animation on scroll, which would normally require JavaScript. So I have a small hack I would like to show you to get an effect like this. And all it is adding animation timeline of view to the animation you want to scroll on view. And now for our last page, I don't feel like going in that much detail, but it's a similar idea of first splitting it. So we see we have one main part here, and we can again divide this just into 2 sections. This is just 2 pieces of text, and this is probably the most complicated part, but it really isn't that bad. All you need to do is have basically one div with a width and height with a background of white separating each of them, and just have some text. And that really is all the skill it takes to break down these simple websites. Now obviously there are some more complicated designs with more complicated positioning you would have to deal with. This one was rather simple. I just hope you enjoyed seeing my thought process, and I hope you learned a lot from this. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, and hope you subscribe. Like always, bye bye.